on the judgeocracy business. We call it judgeocracy in Britain. It's personal predilection of individual judges deciding these matters. And, of course, it represents a transfer of these decision-making powers to the courts. And a lot of my practice is totally illegitimate, and I accept it's totally illegitimate. Many of my clients come to me and they say to me, well, I've got a problem. I think I want to make a statement. Now, I've got a choice. I can lobby 651 MPs, which we have in our parliament, and that's very expensive, and they like lots of good food. I can then try and lobby my fellow citizen with a campaign, but that's very expensive, and I've got to persuade them, I've got to use reasoned argument. Or I can see Paul Diamond have a simple hardship case of 2 days in the High Court at very moderate fees and win possibly there and circumvent the entire democratic process. And we have a very bizarre situation in the United Kingdom where our politicians try to be lawyers and judges, and you see them they have this belief that if they say something on the floor of the House of Commons, the courts would take that on board as an interpretive principle, as what the legislation means. And for those budding MPs in this room, I can assure you, don't waste your time. The courts won't look at it, and they don't. And then we have the courts deciding these very eminent political decisions and very complex political decisions, which are the province of parliamentarians. My favourite phrase, which I used in a case I represented in the House of Lords, liberal toleration is granted to tolerant liberals only. And that is, I think, a very accurate statement. I could go on in some of the bogus arguments used. The maintenance of the sovereignty of Parliament, they're both secured in our Human Rights Act and in Canada's Charter of Rights. They're both ineffective. I could go on about the exemptions for religion argument. I said I'd have to almost do myself down because I'm responsible for the exemption of Section 13 in our Human Rights Act. I haven't quite accepted it's totally gutted, but I have to say it took the courts about 9 months to publicly state that to prefer religious rights, and which we secure heightened protection over other rights, would undermine the schemes of human rights protection. And of course, Professor Parkinson summed it up absolutely accurately. Anti-discrimination principles override everything. Religion has to justify itself on the back foot against discriminatory principles. And as I told you earlier, in this Liddell case, which was the case about the marriage registrar, religious folk are discriminatory and can be dismissed from employment. So we seek to recover our human rights by the repeal of the Human Rights Act. I hope that is illuminating.